ideologies.
And also the people they make the laws. They're just making they're already breaking laws that they made themselves. What do you mean make it illegal? World War II. That should be enough of an intro for what we're doing today. Today we're watching a video by Rational Animations on Could an Evil Regime Rule the World Forever? Not gonna waste time too much. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And personally, I think I'd be a fantastic ruler, me personally. But anyway, let's get in this, baby.
It's the near future, and a single totalitarian regime controls most of the world. Cameras watch every street, every building, every room, public and private. Every spoken word is automatically transcribed and analyzed by AI. As soon as anyone shows signs of dissent, automated security forces take them away. It's the year 2500. The regime crushed its last rival centuries ago, and every spark of internal resistance was extinguished before it could take off. No rival state remains. No uprising has succeeded. History has frozen. It's 1 million years in the future. Humanity never escaped its cage. Countless generations have been born and died under the same system, forced to conform to the same ideology. Humans never spread to the stars. Humanity's future has been permanently locked into a state of stable totalitarianism.
I mean, realistically, isn't that just like North Korea right now? Like, isn't it several countries already that actively have this problem? Fucking, like, damn, the Saudi Arabians and all that. This is already an issue. That's the wrong profile.
How could humanity end up in a future like this? What we just imagined is an example of what philosopher Toby Ord calls an unrecoverable dystopia. It belongs to the broader category of existential risk. Existential risks aren't just risks of human extinction. They're risks that would permanently destroy humanity's future potential to thrive and grow as a civilization. And extinction is just one of the ways this precious potential could be cut short. In an unrecoverable dystopia, humanity doesn't die out completely, but lives on under such miserable conditions.
Here's my thing, right? Here's why I feel like this couldn't like happen. You're telling me that with all the technology and everything we have, you're telling me not one country decides one day, as this other country is destroying everything, fuck it, send every nuke. If I'm gonna hit you think I'm losing? No, bitch, we losing. All you hear is just the final wedding bells of your life flash before your eyes. Hell no. What?
That we have no hope of achieving our long-term potential for growth and flourishing. In his book, The Precipice, Ord asks us to imagine a dystopian future where, reminiscent of George Orwell's 1984, the entire world has become locked under the rule of an oppressive totalitarian regime. If such a regime could be maintained indefinitely, then descent into this totalitarian future would have much in common with extinction. Just a narrow range of terrible futures remaining, and no way out. In many of today's authoritarian states, people still have some freedom to live how they want, as long as they stay away from politics. But totalitarian states go much further. In the quest for complete political power, history's most extreme totalitarian regimes have sought to control virtually all aspects of society.
You can't even look at fine shit Latinas when you're in North Korea, bro. You can't do shit. You gotta have the same hairstyle. Oh, they want everybody looking the same. That's some, bro.
Funding the national economy, remaking the education system, regulating art and entertainment, and enforcing belief in an official state ideology. This extreme level of political repression is miserable for a country's citizens. And worse yet, the power amassed by totalitarian states using these methods has often been used to wage war and commit mass murder. But in order to truly constitute an existential risk on par with human extinction, an aspiring evil empire would need to go even further, creating an unrecoverable dystopia that humanity could never escape. That means that the regime would need to stretch across nearly every inch of the Earth, bigger than any previous empire in history, to prevent any competitor nation from springing up in another part of the world and growing into a significant external threat. Such a regime would also need to be much more stable than any historical nation, preventing all attempts at revolution or reform.
I was about to say, because, like, isn't realistically, like, let's be real, the people who do this are complete, like, narcissists and assholes. but like you can't, like if you're like the big guy, you can't be everywhere at once. So like you put another narcissistic asshole in a different part of the country, they're gonna spring up and try to revolt, because as far as they know, they're the smart one. They're the ones who deserve the power. What are you doing here? You just gave me my jump start. So it's like, what would you expect? You're both horrible people.
From within. That way, it could last indefinitely and truly lock in a single oppressive future that forever eliminates humanity's potential for growth and change. These are very difficult requirements to meet. No government in human history has ever come close. In fact, the task seems so difficult that we should ask ourselves if we truly need to worry about this type of risk. So let's try to explore what might make it possible for an aspiring autocrat to pull off these seemingly impossible feats. Technology can shape history. In the modern world, where so many people enjoy democratic freedoms that were once rare, the idea of stable totalitarianism might seem reassuringly far-fetched. But societies are shaped by the technologies and conditions of their time. Sometimes the balance of historical forces has favored large, rigidly controlled empires, while at other times the world has been more anarchic and decentralized. For example, during the 1800s, a handful of European powers could colonize huge swathes of the world thanks to the overwhelming military advantages conferred by technologies like firearms and sailing ships. By 1914, most of the planet was controlled.
Imagine being the first guy to get shot with a gun. Imagine that. Your country ain't never seen, the world has never seen nothing like this. There's only been bows and arrows so far. You look at that guy, you're like, why the hell is he pointing a stick at? Boom! Your whole lower jaw gone, and your dick. That bullet spread. It broke off when it got shot. It's a prototype, and the guy that shot is dead because that shit got some blowback to it. He didn't even realize that. And now both your wives is widows. That's crazy.
Controlled by just a dozen of the world's most powerful governments, and the colonial empires built by these governments could be extremely repressive and cruel. But over the last 100 years, the distribution of military technology has enormously changed. Today, it's no longer really viable or morally fashionable for one European island to militarily dominate a quarter of the globe. Consequently, there are now almost 200 independent nations on Earth, many more than in 1914.
Oh.
And it's not just military technology that can have a big impact. The invention of the printing press helped enable the Protestant Reformation of the 1500s, since this new communications technology made it easier for radical new religious ideas to spread. The religious disagreements of the Reformation then fueled conflicts like the 30 Years' War that changed Europe forever. With those examples in mind, are there any emerging technologies in our own time that might inadvertently tilt the course of history towards totalitarian centralization?
I will say this: the internet has made it significantly harder for like a totalitarian gut, like in what is it? Damn, sorry. A world that isn't already a dictatorship, it's not gonna become one. At least not crazy like that. Cause when you give, they already got a taste of freedom. They're not gonna let you take it back.
Unfortunately, it seems like there are technologies that could empower tyrants. For starters, there are lots of technologies that could make surveillance cheaper and more effective. CCTV cameras are one clear example, and constant video surveillance is a big theme of George Orwell's novel 1984. In real life, video surveillance used to be limited by the simple fact that, even if you put cameras everywhere, it would be impossible to hire enough secret police to have somebody watching all those video feeds all the time. But these days, artificial intelligence can process video automatically, recognizing individual people by their faces or even by their unique gait as they walk down the street. Today, it's already possible to use these technologies to create a database tracking the movements of everybody in a city, or to use facial recognition to analyze video of protesters and instantly match their faces to a government database with their names and addresses. Or consider how the text processing abilities of large language models like ChatGPT could be abused to censor communications.
They're already doing this. A grandma got arrested for like 6 months and lost her house because the police used AI. This is already going on.
On a vast scale. In the old days, you'd need individual government workers to scrutinize every new book, news article, and private letter. This is an extremely tedious job, and there's never enough time to read everything. In the 1890s, the Russian Empire's Bureau of Censorship was responsible for checking all imported books for subversive content. But the radical communist theories of Karl Marx's book Das Kapital were approved for publication because censors skimming through it thought it was just a boring economics textbook, far too dry to ever become popular or influential. But in modern times, censorship could scale much more easily. AI systems can tirelessly process the text of an entire novel in mere seconds, diligently highlighting any ideas they've been instructed to search for. These AI censors could be perfectly loyal, and they'd work thousands of times faster than human employees, making it conceivable that a powerful government could scrutinize everything published online in real time. More speculatively, any mind-reading or lie detection technology could be misused to stabilize a totalitarian regime against internal threats. In Orwell's...
You know what? If this does happen, you know what's gonna happen? Somebody's going... I'm pausing a storm, I'm sorry. But somebody's going to, like, make an AI to, like, go after the other AIs. And then that AI is gonna go rogue. And then it's gonna get to bombs, and we're all fucking dead.
Novel 1984, the protagonist, Winston Smith, lives under the ever-present video surveillance of Big Brother. All media and communications are controlled by the Ministry of Truth,
Big Bro.
and he knows that any of his friends might secretly be an informer. But in the privacy of his own mind, Winston is still able to nurture secret dissent against the regime. Now imagine if the authorities of 1984 had access to the MRI brain scanning technology now being developed at the University of Texas in Austin.
They're making what?
In a 2023 study, researchers...
They're making what? They're making, huh? Excuse me? What? They're making what?
Put participants into MRI machines that recorded their brain activity while they listened to many hours of podcasts. The researchers then trained a transformer model to correlate words in the podcast transcript with subjects' recorded brain activity. After training, researchers tested the model by having the subjects listen to new podcasts and seeing how well the AI could translate brain activity into words without being given the podcast transcripts. The model isn't able to reproduce the transcripts word for word, but about half the time it produces text that captures the intended meaning of the original words.
Oh, Lord.
For example, a participant listening to someone say, "I don't have my driver's license yet," might have their thoughts translated as, "She has not even started to learn to drive yet." The AI is even able to translate thoughts when the subjects aren't listening to anything, but are just imagining telling their own stories. Currently, this mind-reading device only works after being trained on the unique brain patterns of each individual.
Okay.
This calibration process is long and involved and requires the participants' willing participation. If you ignore the audio and think about other topics, then the calibration will fail. But it's conceivable that future versions of this technology won't require such a delicate calibration process. The researchers also speculate that, although their study was done with bulky and expensive MRI machines, the same mind-reading technique could possibly be implemented with cheaper, portable brain imaging systems, like near-infrared spectroscopy.
Okay, like... here's the problem with stuff like this, right? It's a good kind of technology, like figure out what's going on in somebody's brain, right? See if somebody has like brain problems, potentially like get like data out of somebody's brain, like commit a crime or some shit, right? That's the good part. You wanna know what the bad part is? Well, let me switch a scene. I don't trust you people. I don't. I really don't. Specifically the people running the machine. And y'all already tried to do MK Ultra once. I don't trust you to not try it again. No, you people are freaks. I don't trust you with that information.
Which can provide similar information to functional MRI, just at a lower resolution. It's easy to imagine how future refinements of this technique might someday allow an oppressive police state to scrutinize even the private thoughts of its citizens, detecting the subversive ideas that 1984 called thought crime before they've ever even been spoken aloud. Even just the basic ability to read a mind's overall emotional valence could be used very effectively to enforce the loyalty of everyone employed by the regime. For example, by examining the brain's emotional response when shown a picture of the nation's leader. How can we make these technologies safer? It's difficult to predict the way technology will develop in the future, and it's likely these particular threats will never materialize. But just in case future technologies do end up making it easier to maintain an oppressive government, what can we do to reduce the risk that civilization comes under the sway of stable totalitarianism? Laws and regulations. We might envision simply banning the relevant technologies.
What?
If you're worried about
They're the ones with the use of the technology are the ones making the laws. What do you mean laws and regulations?
mind reading, just make it illegal. But a complete ban would also prevent any beneficial uses of these technologies.
And also the people they make the laws. They're just making they're already breaking laws that they made themselves. What do you mean make it illegal? They don't give a damn. They don't do illegal shit already. Everybody. What the? Okay.
Dictatorships often fall because dictators age and die, and better medical technology would allow dictators to live longer, but it would be crazy to halt all medical progress for that reason. Similarly, AI image classifiers and large language models have thousands of useful applications throughout the economy. The same technology that can be used for surveillance and oppression can also search for tumors in X-ray images, instantly translate documents into foreign languages, and enable safety features like automatic emergency braking in cars. Even AI facial recognition has many innocuous uses. There's a good chance you use it every day to conveniently unlock your phone. Even something as dangerous seeming as mind-reading technology could bring amazing societal benefits alongside the risks. Learning more about how to interpret brain signals helps us restore function to people with certain disabilities, and brain-computer interfaces like Neuralink might someday allow ordinary people to share ideas and use computers far more effectively. Such technology—
Oh, bro, that's some. I'm not gonna lie. When the neural chip comes out, let's like on some cyberpunk shit where we're able to like actually be in a VR space. I'd want to, but I genuinely don't trust I wouldn't trust the people who made it. I'm not gonna lie. You'd have to convince me. I'd be one of them old ass unks that just don't. It's like my phone works just fine. I got a VR headset. I don't want none of that shit in my brain. It gives you radiation. So I'd be one. I don't trust it. I don't trust you people. I don't like. Yes, we can make a version of the technology that works and is fine. I don't trust you. You probably gonna make me run down the street booty butt naked or some shit. Y'all weird.
Technology could even help humanity achieve the dream of mind uploading and whole brain emulation, which we've talked about before. In light of these potential benefits, laws that narrowly outlaw specific misuses will often make more sense than blanket bans on whole technologies. But there's a limit to how much any kind of regulation can help. After all, unless a ban has broad international support, a law in one country won't do anything to prevent an evil empire from popping up next door. And remember that the risk of stable totalitarianism probably won't come from technologies being misused by members of the general public, but rather by ill-intentioned governments. Outlawing dangerous technologies might not be very helpful for this scenario, since
Not even
ultimately
kinda.
you'd be trusting the very same leaders you're worried about to enforce the law against themselves. So perhaps legislation just isn't the right tool for preventing stable totalitarianism. Shaping technological development. Another approach is to try and shape the development of these technologies in ways that make them less amenable to totalitarian abuses.
How?
People often think in terms of a trade-off between privacy and security. But sometimes, if you're clever, you can find ways to get more of one value without sacrificing the other. For example, early in the COVID-19 pandemic, some authoritarian governments hoped to contain the pandemic using contact tracing apps that tracked everyone's location using GPS, logged these movements in a centralized government database, and used the data to understand when an infected person may have exposed new people to the virus. This was somewhat effective at slowing the pace of infection, but most societies refused to roll out similar location tracking apps because the potential abuses seemed so egregious that the idea couldn't be justified even if it saved lives. But instead of just accepting that harsh trade-off between individual privacy and safety from disease, engineers at Apple and Google came together to design a completely privacy-preserving exposure notification system.
Okay.
Instead of tracking everyone's identity and GPS location, smartphones used Bluetooth to exchange random cryptographic keys with other people nearby. Someone who later tested positive could enter their result into the app. Their keys would be recorded as coming from someone infected, and everyone else's phones who exchanged keys with the infected person would get a notification, all without ever sharing anyone's identity or location. Although contact tracing didn't turn out to be as useful for pandemic control as later tools like vaccines and antiviral medicines, the system did have some impact. In California alone, it was used by 16 million people, and over 1 million exposure notifications were sent out, plausibly saving hundreds of lives just in that one state. In the future, just like how engineers at Apple and Google found a privacy-preserving way of doing contact tracing, maybe we could steer the development of powerful technologies like AI language models or brain-computer interfaces, allowing us to enjoy many of their beneficial uses while minimizing their potential for abuse by tyrannical governments. Strengthening democracy. Finally,
Become French. That's how we solve literally every problem. Just become French. And if you don't know what I mean by become French, look it up. Look it up. Become French. That's all you gotta do. It's simple.
perhaps the most broadly useful way to defend against totalitarianism is to strengthen and improve today's democratic societies, reinforcing them against the possibility of sliding into totalitarianism. There are a lot of things that can help with this, including very general improvements like promoting civics education or building more trustworthy institutions. There are probably also specific fixes that society could make to better protect citizens'
They're the ones that run the institutions, though.
rights, or block particular strategies that a would-be dictator might use during a coup attempt. Overall, it stands to reason that a robust and healthy democratic society would be more capable of preventing totalitarian abuses of the government's power, even if future technology makes such abuses easier to pull off. Balancing totalitarian risks against necessary global coordination. Taking steps like these to prevent totalitarianism is extremely important, but it's not the only important thing. Privacy does sometimes trade off against security, turning the issue into something of a balancing act. There are certain problems that require strong global coordination and enforcement to solve. Think about multinational climate agreements, or how the international community goes to great lengths to restrict the spread of nuclear weapons technology. Nobody considers it totalitarian that we don't allow private citizens to buy large amounts of uranium ore. The benefits of nuclear non-proliferation are so obvious, and even very strict controls on nuclear materials don't really affect people's personal lives. In previous videos, we've talked about how future AI systems could pose an extreme danger to civilization once they surpass human abilities in certain key areas. So it might become essential to strictly regulate the creation of frontier AI models until we can figure out how to reliably design AI.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, they're not doing that shit. We're all goners by 2065. Buddy, what? We're cooked, huh?
Systems that share human values. One idea is to evaluate AI capabilities and only allow companies to train systems which we can be confident won't pose a risk of catastrophe. This would be enforced by monitoring large computing clusters, similarly to how we monitor uranium mines today. This kind of plan isn't particularly intrusive, since it would only affect the handful of huge corporations who are training the most powerful AIs, and only on their largest training runs, each of which costs vast sums of money and takes months. But as the technology advances, things could start to get trickier. Suppose we agree to restricting training runs costing over $1 trillion, since we suspect that this could result in dangerously capable unaligned AI. But over time, progress in AI algorithms means that it will become possible to train more powerful AIs for less money. So to stay safe, we might need to lower that $1 trillion threshold over time. Meanwhile, as computer hardware gets cheaper and more powerful, hardware powerful enough to be dangerous becomes less specialized and more widely available, meaning more hardware will need to be monitored. In the limit, if it ever becomes possible to train superintelligent AI on a personal computer, then humanity might be left with an unpleasant choice: use intrusive surveillance to monitor practically every computer in the world, or face extinction when somebody creates an unaligned superintelligence on their laptop. And of course, such a measure would dramatically increase the risk of stable totalitarianism. Hopefully, we'll figure out a—
Isn't that— wait, I just realized, isn't that literally what's like happening in Cyberpunk? Isn't in Cyberpunk there's literally a thing called the Wall? I forgot what it was exactly called, but there's a thing called the Wall, and it's like it's a super intelligent AI that's holding back other super intelligent AI that are far more dangerous and violent and evil. Are we just becoming it's becoming Cyberpunk? Oh my gosh, it's becoming Cyberpunk. Oh sweet heavens. Oh, we're fucked.
AI alignment long before we ever have to worry about something like that. But we may want to use similar surveillance and enforcement systems to protect ourselves from other dangerous technologies, like synthetic biology tools that could be used to create deadly new viruses. Unscrupulous people will no doubt try to use our fear of these kinds of threats as an excuse to gain more power and control over society. But unfortunately, the threats themselves are in fact real. This makes the interventions we discussed even more important. We want the benefits of coordinated global action on crucial issues like climate, nuclear weapons, AI, and biotechnology, but without introducing the risk of totalitarian abuses. To get there, we'll need to find creative engineering solutions that reduce the downside risks of new technologies by making them safe, secure, and privacy-preserving by design. We'll also need healthy, democratic societies that behave with integrity when the stakes are high. The more we can do today, the better prepared humanity will be to deal with future crises. If we do the job well, we can avoid both the risk of human extinction and the risk of falling into an unrecoverable dystopia. If you care about global issues like preventing stable totalitarianism, creating safe AI systems, preventing pandemics, and addressing nuclear risks, but you feel like you can't contribute through your career, one way that you can help tackle these types of threats is by donating to charities and projects that are working on these problems. Giving What We Can has vetted a list of charities and funds from expert charity evaluators and grant makers so that you can help fund research and initiatives designed to address these huge and incredibly difficult global risks. You do have the power to make a difference. Learn more and donate at givingwhatwecan.org/rational.
Good cause. Yeah, that's never gonna happen in a million years. Yeah, call me nihilistic. That would require people getting along, working together, and that's never gonna happen. It might. I hope it does. I highly doubt it. People are far too stubborn and stupid to do it. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed. Thanks, all that, guys. I don't know.